So I make R&B and neo-soul videos, particularly on the acoustic guitar, and from time to time the title of these videos could be Easy R&B Neo-Soul Chord Progression or Neo-Soul Chords for Beginners or things like that. And the comment that I receive all the time is, oh, but this is not really for beginners. So I usually reply, well, this is for beginners of this style, beginners of this genre, which we call R&B and neo-soul. It's not really for complete beginners on guitar. But today I want to actually make an easy R&B and neo-soul lesson for beginners. Maybe even for complete beginners, okay? So we can start learning from scratch the basics of this style. And if you stay with me till the end of the video, I will also show you how you can turn this progression into something slightly more advanced if you maybe are a late beginner or an early intermediate player. So obviously if I play... we can't really say that something like this is for beginners or even worse for complete beginners. So what could be really tricky for an absolute beginner or for a beginner in general when they approach this style? Well, it could be certainly the knowledge of the 7th chords and possibly bar chords and finger picking patterns. Okay, so in order to make it something that even beginners can play, we need to remove bar chords, but we can still keep the 7th chords, okay? Because 7th chords are not just chords that you can play with bar chords. You can even play them as open chords. So let's say that we are in the key of A minor, okay? So we all know the A minor chord. It's probably one of the first chords that you guys have learned on guitar. Now, if instead of playing D minor 7, E minor 7 as 2 bar chords, okay, like I was doing before, I actually want to play them as open chords. I would get a D minor 7 here, and an E minor 7 here. And they still sound amazing when you then go to a classic A minor, which is obviously a triad, so it doesn't even have the 7th. So let's learn these chords together. When I play a D minor 7, I'm doing a bar of 2 strings with my first finger, and my second finger is on the G string, like this. Obviously, the root is on the D string, so I'm just doing this. And when I go to E minor, well, you guys all know the E minor here. If you remove one of these 2 fingers, that's an E minor 7. So this time, in order to make an E minor 7, we have something to remove, which is this finger, okay? But we can also have another voicing for the E minor 7, which is adding the pinky on the 2nd string 3rd fret. Getting this, which I actually prefer for the sake of this chord progression. Now, if we really want to be precise in the finger picking pattern that I will show you, we won't even be using this string. So if you really find this a tricky position, maybe because you are a complete beginner, you can just use your pinky here and do this, okay? But more on that in a minute. So now that we have sorted out the 3 chords that we need, D minor 7, E minor 7, A minor, it's time to get into the groove and really start understanding what we do on the right hand when we play finger picking. Okay. Now on the D minor 7 we can start by plucking simultaneously the bottom 4 strings. I mean, obviously they are the top strings in terms of sound, so the 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st, using the thumb on the D string, which is going to be the root, and then index, middle and ring, 1 per string. With my D minor 7 down, this is gonna sound like this, okay? So I move all of my fingers simultaneously to get this sound. And this is gonna take the beat number 1. You don't have to get too fancy into the counting just yet. You can just say 1 while you play it. Then when you say 2, I would like you to use your right hand palm to really go on top of the strings and get this percussion. It's a movement that goes towards the string, and by the time you reach the strings, you're actually creating what we call a percussion. So when you do so, you can say 2 and do 1, 2, okay? Or if you want to get into an 8th note counting, maybe 1 and 2, okay? Something like this. Now, after this percussion, I want you to stay on the same chord. And this time, we are gonna play the thumb and the index on the D and G strings separately. So one note is the thumb on the A string and one note on its own is the index on the G. So followed by the last sound for this chord, which is the middle and ring finger, which should already be on the second and third string, and you just pluck them together. Okay, so. And as you can see, when I'm done with that, I play my last percussion, which is on the beat 4. So. Okay, now once you are okay with the D-7, move on to the E-7. Again, if you find this position tricky, you can do it just like this, but I encourage you to use this position just to get used to this position, to this shape, even though we are not using this note in the pattern. Because what we're going to do, we're going to move the thumb to the 6th string, which is where you play the note E in the bass, okay? And then you're going to keep the index, middle and ring finger together, but not on the first 3 strings. They're actually going to be on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th, okay? So that you go like this, 6th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Now, you guys probably already know this if you are familiar with this channel, but on my Patreon page, you can find a full transcription for all of my lessons, including this one. So if you want to see note by note what I'm actually playing and you need a reference, you can use the tab and music notation that you find on my Patreon page. And as a bonus, there is also a full chord analysis, which explains the music theory if you are curious about that too. So far we have the identical pattern for the D-7 and the E-7 going. And this is already pretty cool because it has percussions, because you are playing it finger picking, and because in these chords you are learning 7 chord shapes and also some interesting voicings which really describe a melody. And then eventually here, or actually as you will see in a minute, because when we get to the A minor, which has now the root on the A string, so the thumb is on the A, index, middle and ring are on the 4th, 3rd and 2nd, what you do here, you still pluck the chord all together when you get started, but I want you to start without the first finger on the A minor, like this. Technically this is an A sus2, but it doesn't really matter, it's just something that we do in order to get our very first embellishment, which is a hammer-on between the B string open and the 1st fret, which is the note C. Okay, doing this. Now on the right hand, again, you do the same thing. You just pluck like this. It's on the left hand that you use your 1st finger to create the hammer-on, which is an embellishment. Okay. Percussion next. And after that, you play the thumb on its own, index on its own, and then middle and ring together, like we've done for the other 2 chords. So, doing this, there is a consistency in the timing and in the finger picking pattern so that you can keep practicing it, but there is also a melody, okay, and an embellishment, so something different that you can learn on these 3 chords. When you're done with this, because this sounds like 3 bars, make sure that you repeat the A minor twice, so that we conclude 4 bars, which is usually the length of a chord progression. Okay. Now you will have to start really slow. When you then feel more comfortable with it, you can try to increase the tempo and get something like. So by playing this chord progression, we are learning 7 chords in open positions, grooves with finger picking patterns and percussions, and even an embellishment which brings us more into that R&B vibe. But now we are ready to see how this would be if we were talking to a more late beginner or intermediate player, okay? Before we do so, guys, remember that if you want to improve your R&B and neo-soul skills on acoustic guitar, there is my course available, which is called R&B and Neo-Soul Acoustic Guitar, and it's out on Skillshare, where if you click the link in the description below, you can get 1 month of free trial of the entire Skillshare platform. And it's also out on Udemy if you prefer to buy it all together. And if you click the link in the description below, you will get 60% off. So yeah, if you want to explore this genre on acoustic guitar, covering 7 chords, music theory, embellishments, and neo-solitude, make sure that you check out my course on Udemy and Skillshare. So I want to work on that D-7 and E-7 and move them into bar chords, which look like this, okay? Bar chords both in A shape, 5th and 7th frets. So now, by doing these two positions, you can already spot that my pinky is free, and that means that we can create more hammer-ons, more embellishments, okay? I want to keep the same groove. I don't even want to change the A minor, but this will still change the chord progression quite a lot. So on the D-7, I'm plucking the A, D, G, and B string simultaneously, percussion, then thumb, index, middle and ring together. So the same pattern as before, I'm just changing where I'm playing it. Then I'm gonna plug the E-7 all together as well, same strings, percussion, thumb only, and with my ring finger, I go to my first string and I play a hammer-on pull-off between the 7th and 10th fret, okay? And after the hammer-on pull-off, I play with my middle finger the second string only once, so. Then I'm ready for my last percussion, then I play the G string once with my index and the A string once with my thumb, okay? Remember, guys, that even this variation is gonna be available as tab and music notation on my Patreon page. So altogether we get even slower. Okay guys, so let me know in the comments below if you can play both versions. Don't forget to check out my R&B and neo-soul acoustic guitar course at the link in the description below, and if you want to see the tab for both these two variations, head to my Patreon page.